Well, folks, buckle up, because the Supreme Court just threw a wrench into the Trump administration's deportation machine. In a surprising turn of events, the highest court in the land temporarily blocked the deportation of Venezuelan nationals in Texas. You see, the Trump administration wanted to use the Alien Enemies Act, a relic from World War II, to expedite these deportations. But the Supreme Court, in its infinite wisdom, or at least its 7-2 majority wisdom, decided to pump the brakes. This unexpected move has sparked a whole new legal battle, with the White House crying foul and Democrats breathing a sigh of relief. This case isn't just about immigration, it's about the balance of power. It's about whether the executive branch can just sidestep the judiciary when it feels like it. And it's about the rights of immigrants, even those who haven't been here for generations. This case is a big deal, folks, and it's only just getting started. This case is a prime example of why we need to pay attention to the Supreme Court. Even if you're not a lawyer, even if you don't understand all the legal jargon, this stuff matters. Because what happens in those hallowed halls affects all of us, whether we realize it or not. So stay tuned, because this story is far from over. Well, you can imagine the reaction from the White House was about as subtle as a brick through a window. Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt didn't mince words, calling the lawsuits meritless litigation brought about by radical activists. The Department of Justice also jumped into the fray, labeling the injunction unprecedented and scrambling to figure out if they could deport the Venezuelans under some other legal loophole. The administration argued that the ACLU's motion was premature and that the immigrants weren't even a certified class, because apparently due process is only for those who've jumped through enough bureaucratic hoops. Solicitor General Noel Francisco even went so far as to say that the Supreme Court's decision would have serious consequences for the executive branch's ability to enforce immigration law. Oh, the humanity. It's almost as if they believe the executive branch should have absolute power over immigration, regardless of what the courts say. But hey, who needs checks and balances when you've got executive authority, right? On the other side of the aisle, Democrats and legal experts were practically popping champagne. They saw the Supreme Court's decision as a victory for due process and a much-needed check on the Trump administration's more, shall we say, enthusiastic approach to immigration enforcement. Representative Delia Ramirez, DIL, didn't hold back, calling the administration out of control and praising the court for standing up for the rights of immigrants. ACLU attorney Lee Gallant, who argued the case before the Supreme Court, stressed the very real danger the migrants faced and the vital role the court played in intervening. This case has really thrown a wrench into the administration's plans. It's a reminder that yes, even the President of the United States is bound by the law. And that's a good thing, folks, because when one branch of government becomes too powerful, we all lose. Now, let's talk about this Alien Enemies Act for a second. This dusty old law, passed way back in 1798, basically gives the president the power to detain and deport non-citizens of countries with which the United States is at war. Yes, you heard that right. Last time I checked, we weren't exactly trading artillery fire with Venezuela. Sure, the Trump administration has been pretty vocal about its dislike for Nicolas Maduro's regime, but using a law designed for wartime enemies to deport Venezuelan asylum seekers, that seems like a bit of a stretch, even for this administration. It's like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. Or maybe more accurately, using a nuclear warhead to kill a fly. The point is, the Alien Enemies Act is a ridiculously blunt instrument, and using it in this case is a clear example of executive overreach. The Supreme Court, in its wisdom, seems to have recognized this, which is why they hit the pause button on the whole deportation plan. Section 5. Due process. More than just a fancy legal term. You see, folks, the Supreme Court didn't just block the deportations because they felt like being nice. They did it because the Trump administration was trying to pull a fast one. They were trying to deport these Venezuelan nationals without giving them a chance to make their case, without even informing them of their rights. That, my friends, is a big no-no in the eyes of the law. It's called a violation of due process, and it's something the Founding Fathers took very, very seriously. The Fifth Amendment to the Constitution clearly states that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Those are some pretty powerful words, and they apply to everyone in this country, citizen or not. The Supreme Court has consistently held that even non-citizens are entitled to due process protections, including the right to a hearing before being deported. The Trump administration's attempt to circumvent these protections is not only legally dubious, but also morally reprehensible. It's a blatant disregard for the rule of law, and a slap in the face to the very principles this country was founded on. Section 6. The Kilmar Abrego Garcia case, when administrative errors raise eyebrows. And if you think this whole Venezuelan deportation debacle is bad, wait till you hear about the case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. This poor guy, allegedly an MS-13 gang member, was deported by the Trump administration despite a court order explicitly barring his removal. The administration's excuse? Oh, just a little administrative error. You know, those pesky little errors that just happen to result in people being unjustly deported. Well, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals wasn't buying it. They ruled against the administration, emphasizing the importance of following court orders and facilitating Garcia's return to the United States. Even Republican Judge J. Harvey Wilkinson III, no bleeding heart liberal, criticized the administration's actions, warning that disregard for the law is a dangerous game. The White House, in its infinite wisdom, responded to this legal setback by doubling down on its attacks, referring to Garcia as a DMS-13 member and accusing Democrats of supporting foreign alien terrorists. Because nothing says we respect the rule of law like demonizing your opponents and resorting to fear-mongering. Section 7, Trump's immigration tug-of-war, a legacy of defiance. Now, this whole Supreme Court showdown isn't an isolated incident, it's just the latest chapter in a long and contentious saga, the Trump administration versus the judiciary on immigration. From the Muslim travel ban to the border wall to the separation of families at the border, the administration has consistently pushed the boundaries of executive power, often clashing with the courts in the process. Trump has never been shy about his disdain for the judiciary, often accusing judges of being so-called judges and Obama judges when they rule against him. He's even gone so far as to claim that he has the absolute right to do whatever he wants on immigration regardless of what the courts say. This disregard for the rule of law is deeply troubling, to say the least. It undermines the very foundation of our democracy and sets a dangerous precedent for future presidents. Section 8, the judiciary versus the Donald, a battle for the ages. So what does the future hold for this epic legal battle? Well, it's safe to say that the Trump administration isn't going to back down anytime soon. They've made it abundantly clear that they believe they have the right to do whatever they want on immigration, and they're willing to fight tooth and nail to defend that right. The judiciary, on the other hand, has shown that it's not afraid to stand up to the executive branch. They've blocked several of the administration's most controversial immigration policies, and they've made it clear that they're not going to let the administration trample all over the Constitution. This battle between the judiciary and the executive branch is a battle for the soul of our nation. It's a battle between those who believe in the rule of law and those who believe they are above the law. And it's a battle that will have profound implications for generations to come. Section 9. The future of immigration, a nation divided. The Supreme Court's decision to block the deportation of Venezuelan nationals is a significant victory for due process and the rule of law. However, it's important to remember that this is just one battle in a much larger war. The fight over immigration is far from over, and it's likely to continue to be a major source of division and controversy in this country for years to come. The outcome of this fight will depend on whether we, as a nation, choose to uphold the values of fairness, justice, and compassion, or whether we allow fear, prejudice, and xenophobia to guide our actions. The choice is ours, folks. Let's hope we make the right one.